That's pretty close to 7:15. All right, good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting here tonight, June 16th, 2025. My name is Van Broderick. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem. We excuse Mayor Lundberg, who's unavailable tonight. We also excuse Councilmember Stewart and understand Councilmember Hoyt is on the way, but thank you all for being here. We will begin with a prayer by Lincoln Jacobs, and then we'll be led in the pledge by Juan, our Public Works Director.
Our dear Father in heaven, we approach Thee this evening, Father, with gratitude for the many blessings that we enjoy, Father. We're grateful for the wonderful land where we live, for the wonderful city of Lindon, and the great people that work together as we move forward trying to face the challenges that we face on a daily basis in our city and in the world. We're grateful, Father, for our first responders, for the emergency personnel, for our police officers, for the many wonderful things that they do on behalf of our citizens. We pray that Lord bless them, bless their families for their sacrifices. Help us to have a safe community, Father. Help us to do the things that we need to do as citizens and residents to help to ensure the continued safety and enjoyable life that we live here in Lindon. We pray this night as we face these decisions and discussions that we can do so with kindness, with understanding, that we are willing to consider the perspectives and points of view of others as we discuss the items that are on our agenda tonight. We're grateful for those who are serving here and pray that Jake would be able to make it down here safely as he continues en route. And we offer this prayer to Thee in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you.
Bryce, repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we'll have our call to order. We'll start, and this will be very quick. Lincoln, get us going.
Lincoln Jacobs, present.
Van Broderick, present.
Cole Hooley, present.
Thank you both for being here, or else we'd be in a little bit of trouble. All right, exciting start out of our meeting tonight. We'll invite Kelly Johnson to come forward, and we're going to do some cert recognition, so come on up. If you would like.
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully that way it gets picked up on the video, because we have several CERT members who would like to be here to get their certificate but are at work currently. So I just wanted to mention that this CERT program has only been going on now for 3.5 years. We started to organize 3.5 years ago. And in that time, we have had 5 classes. We have had additional training, which has been really good in traffic control, fire rehab team, shelter management. That included intake and setup and mass feeding, advanced medical, and also ATC 20, which is post-earthquake building inspection. And that is something that was done through the state so that if there's an earthquake, we actually have a large cadre of folks from around the state who can do initial assessments of earthquakes. But in addition to that, we've actually done quite a few events and responses. So our CERT team has been involved in multiple fires with that fire rehab team, and also ice training with some fire departments down in Springville and Spanish Fork. So they actually go out and help those fire departments warm up, cool down, do medical assessments, and get called out on those real events. They have helped with organizational leadership for sandbagging when we have needed it multiple times over the last couple of years. They've helped with donation and volunteer management, particularly with the Lindon City Drill and our food drive. They've provided a lot of that organizational leadership that we need there, as well as traffic management for that drive, as well as for the Lindon Days Parade. They've also do socials. They have some fun along the way. So Christmas socials and a summer barbecue, and have also unfortunately been, and also fortunately been involved in 2 search and recoveries. One for a gentleman who went missing on a mountain, and one for a woman who was inside her home when it burned down. So they have been involved in some real responses as well. And I am awfully grateful for them, for their leadership. I would like to, we don't have too many of them here. I think the 5:15 time makes it very challenging for folks who are working to be here. But I also want to mention that for Lindon, we also have a teacher's cadre. And they take care of making sure that our classes go really well. And I don't know, Springville I think has some teachers, but there are some other programs here where the emergency manager is taking every single class and doing all of the teaching all of the time. And I cannot tell you how grateful I am that we have such good volunteers as a part of our program. One of the things that I hear pretty consistently from the other program managers throughout the county is that while our group may not be the largest, we are the ones that show up, and we're the ones that know what we're doing, and we're the ones who are consistent in being excellent volunteers anywhere that we're needed in Lindon or around the county, and I'm really appreciative of that. So let's, Angie, do you want to come up and help with these? This last class had 6 graduates, but we also had 3 additional people who came to the course who had taken CERT before and just wanted a refresher. So while they don't get a secondary certificate because they kind of picked and chose a little bit what they wanted to learn, we're always, because it's a free course for the community, we always welcome folks who have trained before to come back and do refreshers. So our first person is Lile Lavaki. I didn't ask you how to pronounce your last name. I'm so sorry. Is that right? Yeah, stay up here. We'll take it. Our second, third, and fourth are Eleanor, Jenny, and who's the other one? Nope. Jenny and Julie. Eleanor is trying to make it here. She may be on her way still, I'm not sure, but the 3 of them kind of came together and have done everything together. And unfortunately, Jenny and Julie were unable to come, and so Eleanor was going to pick it up on behalf of all 3, and she's not here either, so good job, ladies. Kevin Reed, who is not here. And this last one is very special. We actually changed the date once because we were going to do this a little bit earlier in the summer. But we wanted to make sure that David Sawyer was here. Don't hand it to him quite yet. I'm actually going to ask his dad, Mike, to come up. This could make me cry a little bit. Sorry, Mike, come up. So for those of you who don't know, Mike has been involved in the CERT community around the county for quite a long time. And when we were first starting to try to organize our CERT program, I didn't have a clue how to do that. And I reached out to Mike, and he was the one that led me. He was the one that was like, oh, you ought to think about this, and what about these, and here's how you do the courses, and here's what's required, and this is what you need. For quite a long time, there's an individual in the community who's called you have to be trained the trainer trained. I know that's a lot of T's. But you're supposed to have somebody who's trained the trainer at every single class that is taught to make sure that everything is being taught correctly. That's one of the ways that they maintain consistency in the CERT program around the country. And for quite a long time, Mike was the only person who could do that in the whole county, which meant that he was coming to all of our classes, and all of the classes in Springville, and all of the classes in Spanish Fork, and all of the classes in Mapleton, all of the classes in Lehigh. Now, we have since, I didn't put it on the list. We did a 3 Saturday long, 8 hours each of those 3 Saturdays, train the trainer course, and now we have more people, including Angie and some other folks who are train the trainer, which is fantastic. But in the meantime, Mike put in so much effort for everybody to make sure that things were working. He actually got an award from us at our Police Week a year ago. The really cool thing is that in this last program, David, who has helped us out in our Lindon City CERT over and over and over again as Mike's son, He's helped with thanking people when they came through for the food drive. He's come to classes. He's been a fantastic individual to have. And this time he said, "Can I just join the class?" And I thought, why haven't we done this already? Anyway, I wanted Mike to be able to be the one to present this certificate to his son, David. And then, even though we are small in number but mighty in spirit, would Lisa and Mark, would you come up as well? And if we could get a picture, that'd be great.
Oh, we have to for the mayor. Again, and thank you very much for all your work and preparation, training. So,
It's a thankless job, and we appreciate your willingness to do something like this on behalf of our city and the other communities. Thank you for your time.
We really, I can't emphasize enough that our folks are really good.
They are.
They really are. Thank you.
thank you. All right, we're now to agenda item number 3, open session for a public comment. This is for anybody that wants to make comments, questions regarding anything that's not on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll go on to item 4, council reports. Lincoln, excuse me, Lincoln, if you'd get us started.
I would love to. On the Parks and Rec side, our Hollow Park pickleball courts look absolutely amazing. I know Van watched a little bit as they recoated the surface, and I went over there and chatted with the team that was doing that, and it was fun to see how they do that. And now I believe they opened today, didn't they? So play has begun again at Hollow Park on the pickleball courts. The tennis courts will also be resurfaced. We're a few weeks out from them starting that. It'll have the same kind of a 2 to 3 week unable to be used during that time period. And Heath pointed out today that we're in an extreme heat, which equals extreme drought, increased fire conditions, but it also means for our parks and recs that they would really have to increase a lot of water. They're trying to keep up with it. But the National Oceanographic and Weather Station official people have tried to encourage the yellow as the new green. So we might see our parks not quite so green as we're trying to balance out the need for water. In our Planning Commission, one of the items that they had this last week was discussing Mrs. Vinker's porch covering. There was a lot of discussion about what it would mean and how ordinance could be changed without, causing that problem for frontage offsets to be decreased and how they could do this. So after a lot of discussion, the Planning Commission recommended that the staff come back with, based on other communities and everything, a recommendation for that zone change. So it'll come back to the Planning Commission, and then they'll pass it on to the City Council to make a final decision there. North Point Solid Waste, there is a public hearing on June 23rd for a fee increase. It was $1.50 on a lot of different areas that range from a 3% to an 8% increase for various costs. For city curbside pickup, it resulted in about a 4% increase. So that public hearing will be on the 23rd. That's all I have.
And when would that go into effect?
I think it goes into effect on July 1st. I looked and thought, I'm going to be prepared for questions. It was, July 1st, so it's just a week before. Neil was here, and he told all of us. Can you remember?
And we've got that in the budget, I believe, don't we?
July 1st, yes. That's it.
All right, thank you. The main ditch piping is ongoing and continuing. And I would appreciate Juan for his work there. And also, if you haven't been by Keeneland Court, the stormwater detention really starting to take shape as to what it'll look like. And I guess we'd like to see some actual rain come to see how well it does when we're finished. But
That's a lot of work, and I threw out, hey, we could make a pickleball court at the bottom, and Juan said with stadium seating for those sides, but we didn't go with that option.
We can make it a grass court.
I love that response, Juan.
all right, Cole.
Communities that care holding programming. 2 meetings ago, they were highlighted, doing great work. Historical Commission, Tree Board are both chugging along nicely. With the school district, we have an item on tonight's agenda where we'll be item number 14. So I'll wait until then to kind of dive into some of the details of our most recent meeting. In addition to that, we have 5 individuals running for board seat 2, which encompasses all of Lindon and the south part of PG. And they will be having a Meet the Candidates night on July 8th in our community center.
So that's 5 seats, is that right? Or 5 that are running?
5 people running for that one seat.
For the one seat. So
So
they
will
have to
there
have
be
a primary.
primary? That's
So they have a primary coming up. Yeah, so there's actually, I think, a primary for each of the 7 board seats. Maybe not for Vineyard. I think maybe they only had, no, I think they had 3. So I think all of the 7 board seats have a primary. Lots of people.
That's awesome.
And what will we cut our 5 down to? Do you know?
2.
They'll go down to 2.
Yeah.
So it's 2 for each seat, so I think
Yeah.
it's 4.
For
We only have the one seat.
yeah, we only
sorry.
have 1 seat. So
My bad.
it'll be down to 2
Sorry.
for our 1 seat, and then so it'll go 5 to 2. Anyway, July 8th in the evening, opportunity to meet the 5.
In our community center, great.
Yep.
One other thing I didn't mention is our summer kickoff with the foam and stuff up at Friar Park. Those foam machines are incredibly fun. And the water fight. And those reusable water balloons, all pretty
Those
cool.
are awesome.
So,
Kids love it.
thank you. That, from my perspective, was a very successful, well-attended, and well-appreciated event. Administrator's report, Adam.
Let's see. So we mentioned, sorry, my brain was on city council seats there. So we've got those that filed, mayor's running unopposed. And then for city council, Van Broderick, Desiree Green, and Jake Hoyt filed for city council. Meeting with Desiree on Thursday just to talk through some things and her objectives, and happy to extend that to Van and Jake if you'd like to meet and go through anything that you have questions on. So just a reminder, we only have 1 meeting in July and 1 in August during the summer months. And so our next meeting is July 7th and then August 4th. And then a question there on the candidates. With just those 3 of you running, I don't believe the mayor will even be on a ballot. And so since she's running unopposed, I could be wrong. I need to check with the county on that.
I would bet she's on there.
I think she is, if she's unopposed. Okay, I don't know. We'll find out. And so do you feel like we need a Meet the Candidates night? So all 3 of you have run before. We have Desiree ran in 2017 and 2019, and we have videos from those. Just wanted to get your feedback. But
I would be curious how Desiree feels, because it's been a while since she's run, and it would make me a little nervous for us to decide as a council where we've got 2 incumbents. It might be worth just checking with her. Jake was I'm not Jake, but Van was we got his vote there. I'm sure Jake is similar, but I wonder.
We'll do whatever needs to be done.
okay, I'll check with her and see what she feels. So I'll let you know. But no primary needed. So, yeah, typically on the Meet the Candidates nights before the general election, it's been late September or early October. So we'll look at those and let you know. That's all I have. Thanks.
Just a side note, the Planning Commission had to change their meeting, so on Monday, the 7th is the only July meeting for Lindon City Council, and then on the 8th is the only one for the Planning Commission. They're back-to-back on those 2 dates.
All right,
all I
thank you. Moving on to item number 6, the approval of the minutes. And I have no changes.
I have no changes as well, so if no one else has any changes, then I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes from Monday, June 2nd, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That was unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Brittany, for doing the minutes as always. Item number 7, consent agenda items. Got a little bit of surplus equipment. Adam, do you want to walk us through that?
Several items, vehicles and other surplus equipment that have been included in your staff report packet. And we put some dollar values here on this, and then these items are posted on publicsurplus.com for bids on this equipment, and then we take the highest bid. And if it doesn't meet we have a, what's the right term? We have a minimum bid, and if it doesn't meet that, we will either repost or we can dispose of that in other similar fashion, so. Other websites or of that nature. So, any questions on that?
No.
Okay.
How often, you may not even know the answer, but curiosity just came to me. How often do people not meet the minimum bids? Is it a frequent thing?
Occasionally. Yeah, most of the time it's met.
It's posted, isn't it, for them to see?
Yeah.
So,
I think so. Does that sound
Yeah,
right?
you can release it under the minimum bid, but we have the ability to do that. It's not, they still have to make the minimum, and then we can decide, let it go because it's close enough, or we won't get any better bid.
Yeah, I think even if it's not listed, you can hide it, and if you submit a bid, it will then send a message back saying you haven't met the minimum, and so it'll make them continue to go higher until they hit that. But
all right. Any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Okay, I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
I second.
Thank you. And Brittany, it's going to be these two all of the way through. Until Jim gets it.
so I believe even though you're chairing, Van, you can still make a motion.
I can still
and
make a
things.
motion.
I was curious about that. As pro
Yeah.
tem, can he make a motion?
Yeah, but we're going to make you two do it.
Yeah, he's like, he's doing that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So unanimous.
But who's gonna make the motion to close at the end? Because that's your job. That'll be a
think I
problem
can
you're
still
gonna have to
do
think
that.
about.
Pro Tem retains his ability to.
Brian, was that a nodded agreement? Yes, I can still. Okay. All right, moving on to item number 8. This is a review and action for renaming a portion of the City Center Park to the Centennial Park.
Heath, you want to run through this item?
Of course, as many of you know, we have plans. We've set a memorial bench out here in the back of the property, and we plan on doing a time capsule in the beginning of next council meeting, a little early. So we're working out the plans for that, for some pomp and circumstance. I brought that one time to council meeting, that big, we call it the big pill, that big piece of pipe. It's full, and so we're gonna have to open another one. But if you'd like an opportunity that day to bring something to put in there, I mean, we'll have some more room available because it was packed tight. So we'll have 2 little ones. We're going to put them right there with a memorial rock. We thought as a staff it might be a neat idea to take this portion and posthumously name it our heritage, our Centennial Park with our heritage pavilion with the U.S. heritage boats and the theme of the heritage. and not remove it from the park's master plan, because then as a 2-acre, 1.9 acre park, it would not receive funding from impact fees and stuff. So that's why it's a resolution. We hope to, maybe you would get behind that. And if it's Centennial Park with the Heritage Pavilion, or the Heritage Park with the Centennial Pavilion, it's a wash either way. But we thought it might be a neat thing to do to remember our 100 year till we get to our 150 year where we open the time capsule.
50 years. Be 110.
Well, you're invited.
Sounds good to me.
Questions?
No questions.
I'm great with it.
It sounds awesome. As I was reading this, it's one of those things that people in the future, as they come, hopefully they'll ask why and understand why. So
If we refer to that, we thought if we refer to that as the Centennial Park with the rock and the time capsule, we have a rock that's etched. We'll set on top of the time capsule. That it might drive some people to really think about it and be
Yeah, that's
thankful
great.
for our 100th year.
That's awesome. Well, then I move to approve Resolution 2025-13-R as presented.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Looks like that was unanimous. Thank you. Item number 9, public hearing for fiscal year 2026, the transfer of enterprise funds to the general fund. We'll take a motion to open a public hearing.
I move to open a public hearing.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous. Public hearing, go ahead, Adam.
Thanks. The state requires that we hold a public hearing if we are transferring any funds from the enterprise fund to the general fund, and just accept public comment. There's no required motions or decisions by the city council on this. Your decision, if you choose to not, if you're concerned about this or want to make changes or not support it, that would be in the budget item. And so this is just an opportunity for the public to make comment. As part of that state requirement, we send out notices to all the households and businesses in town, all the addresses, and they received a postcard that's on that next page. And then we post it on the website and the state notice site, on our social media, and have not received any comments that I'm aware of from the public this year. So,
Something we do every year,
yeah.
so pretty standard. And
I took an opportunity to talk to Adam a little bit about it. I know we've done this in the past, but appreciate his willingness to talk to me and help me appreciate it even more than I did before. But as I hung up the phone, I also I felt an appreciation for Kristen and for Adam and you guys handling the entire budget and helping to make sure that Lindon City is fiscally responsible and able to meet the needs of our residents, our parks and recs, and all infrastructure, everything that we have. Appreciate you guys doing these little things to help us have a healthy general fund and be responsible financially. No motion necessary, though, on this, yeah?
nope, I guess we can close the public hearing, no?
Yeah.
I move to close the public hearing.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Again, unanimous. Now we move to item number 10, which is another public hearing.
So this is similar to that prior item. There's no motion required to be made. If you have questions or concerns, we can address those. But if you want to see some changes in the compensation programs, that would be more appropriate in the budget discussion. So this is an opportunity for the public to come and express comments or questions or concerns about the compensation program. Specifically, the state code says for executive municipal officers, which is essentially myself and our department heads would be in that category. As part of this, though, we also list the compensation programs for the entire city, including elected and appointed officials. And so that section out of the budget is included in the subsequent pages, and all this item is just to receive public comment.
All right, let's have a motion to open the public hearing.
I make a motion to open a public hearing.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to open a public hearing on the fiscal year 2026 compensation programs. All in favor?
Aye.
We're now entertaining any public hearing comments.
Don't you have to invite the public to come up if they want to share
That's
something?
what I was doing right there. All right, seeing none, we'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous. All right, on to item number 11, which is another public hearing to go over the fiscal year 2026 final budget adoption, amending the 2025 budget, and an update of the sewer fund loan rate and term. So I'll take a motion to open a public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open a public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to open a public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous again, so Kristen, go ahead, please.
All right, well, this is our final look at the budget to approve it before July 1st, and also amending the 2025 budget. And part of that, as we're ending this fiscal year, is to, which do you have first? Do you have the?
So we've got the ordinance and then the resolution to amend the enterprise fund loan, and then we go into the fraud
Let's do the
assessment.
loan first and then the fraud risk
Okay,
assessment.
so this was the resolution on the loan.
Our auditors had a question about the sewer, the loan from the general fund to the sewer fund that we did at the end of last fiscal year, because there was not an interest rate or term set with it, so we're cleaning that up now. Setting a 4.5% interest rate and a 10-year term. And
We wouldn't take 10 years though, would we?
I don't think so, and I don't know that there's anything that says you can't just say, never mind, sewer fund, you don't have to pay it back. I mean, we need to have another
You
hearing.
have to
if that
set a
was-
rate and a term,
Right.
but
So
yeah,
this,
we'll have to look into that if it can
Yeah.
be forgiven or
this
not,
is the
so.
sewer fund borrowing money from
The general
general
fund.
fund. So we're paying ourselves interest.
Yeah.
Cool.
So originally on
Yeah.
this, last year when we did this, we set a 0% interest and no term to repay it back. And the state auditors identified
Not
to
the
us.
state auditors,
Sorry,
our-
our local
our-
auditors identified that there's a state code that requires that you have to adopt at least what our public treasurer's investment fund rate is at, which is 4.5%. And you have to set a term if you're loaning
Which,
money
with 10 years at the
between
most, yeah.
funds. So this is redoing the same resolution, but with an updated interest rate and the 10-year term added.
Curious as to their logic behind that.
That's what the words in the state code say.
So
I think
weird.
they're more used to looking at it going the other way, going from an enterprise fund to the general fund. And they don't want the cities taking advantage of the utility fees to help the general fund. So they're saying, okay, well, if you're going to do that, you need to have an interest rate and a term.
Makes sense.
So when we finish, your sample motion is to approve the ordinance that adopts the amended budget and the new budget and the certified tax rate and everything there, and then also this resolution that deals with this enterprise fund loan. So
That
just,
sample motion listed there does it all.
that does it all, so.
Wow,
just an-
this is like
Just
100
an
pages.
FYI.
Yeah, there's a lot to that.
So next, we've got our fraud risk assessment.
And that's something that the state auditor's office wants us to do each fiscal year. So there's a questionnaire that we get points for if we're doing it. And so we have a total of 340.
Where are we at? There we go, 345.
345. Yep. So that puts us at an estimated low risk. I mean, there's always risk and something can happen, but we have internal controls. We try and keep the separation of duties.
Is the item number 8, what does it mean to have a formal internal audit function?
Some cities are hiring people to come in and do little internal audits, probably on a quarterly basis, or they go with other cities and say, hey, you do mine, I'll do yours, that kind of thing. So it's just saying that somebody is coming in so it's not the external audit, which is where you hire the auditors and then they write up anything that they find wrong. It's where it's, you have somebody else coming in and looking at it, so it's considered more internal.
Gotcha.
Okay. Who's considered the management team?
Chase and I. So for the accounting, for the finance, yep.
And it's cool we get to call it a team.
Going through this audit, did it bring up any flags that coming away from it were like, yeah, we should make some changes here, or? did we
So
pretty much
Chase is
know?
actually working on getting his CPFO. So it's, if you can go up to the questionnaire part with the points.
Yeah, so that would be 3.
Yes, yep. And he actually got a scholarship from the GFOA, the National GFOA. And so he has 2 years to work on that certification, and they're paying for that. So,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yep. And so we're working on that. And then I keep thinking we want to do something for the internal audit function. But I just need to reach out to another city. I tried reaching out to KNC, who we hire to help with our audit, with audit prep, and they are just so busy. So, and they would be more expensive. So.
It's an impressive score, right? I mean, yes, it's in the low category, but it's very, very close to the very low, which is an awesome grade to have.
Yeah, and we've just, since I've been here, we've been making improvements all the time, getting advice from our auditors, or, like look from the state auditor's office with different alerts that they have to help us make sure that we're, making good decisions. And the biggest thing is for a city our size to have separation of duties, so that, for many years, I was the treasurer and the city finance director. And so I was doing journal entries and moving cash. And that's not there's no separation of duties there. So yeah, and stuff like that, that's not just, not like I would do anything, but it's also, it's a protection for me, not just for the city to have that. So it's not like, I think she did something, so it protects me. I couldn't.
Do you feel like there's benefit to the city to have that formal internal audit function?
I think so. There's a point where does the cost, like you can keep adding and adding, but then like the cost outweighs
The benefit.
the benefit.
And that was part of the reason for my
Right.
question is,
Right.
Are you feeling a strong need for that or not?
I don't feel a strong need. If I did, I probably would be pushing for it more, but I feel like we're doing good, and I don't know that the cost would be, like justify, or the need would justify the cost, so.
All right, thank you.
Next is our amended fiscal year 24-25 budget.
So, in this budget amendment for fiscal year 25, just cleaning up some accounts. That's what most of them are. We do have an increase for trails maintenance that was just needing more work done on the trails. With their last budget amendment, we added an amount for the Heritage Trail, the part that needs to go down to the sub-base, but then the other, like just repaving and stuff, is also coming in a little bit higher. And then with our cemetery improvements, our public works director is super excited for that expansion for the cemetery, and so he got started this fiscal year instead of next fiscal year. So I'm just having to amend the budget to put some budget there for him, and then with our recreation fund in the aquatics, we just needed to increase the insurance allowance, because when we originally budgeted, we had an employee there that wasn't taking the benefit, and even though they're allowed to, so then we have a new employee, and the employee is taking the benefit, which is what we offer, and I just didn't have it in the budget, so I needed to fix that.
Two just kind of quick questions that probably don't have anything to do with you. On the Heritage, sorry, that came out a little
No,
harsh.
I loved it.
Heritage Trail, is there any drainage things that we'll yet do coming up from Keeneland Park? I had some people ask me about that.
Yeah, that's gonna be a stormwater improvement, so that won't fall on the Parks and Rec to take care of it. When I met with you, we're just kind of redoing the trail from the first cul-de-sac on Center Street, which I think is 820. It's now Temple View.
Right.
And then it has a lane that goes all the way to towards the Murdoch Trail. So we're modifying a section of the trail to allow for an overflow of stormwater, but that's going to be a stormwater improvement rather than a...
So that is something that will still happen.
Right. It's not on the Heritage Trail fund on parks. It kind of falls on the stormwater because we're making it.
Great, okay. And then how are we on smart controllers in our parks? As we talked about maybe watering less, how many of our parks have those and how many do we still need?
Yeah, we are up to speed with everything that we have from that grant. I would say 90% of the city is in smart control. There are a lot of, like down at the on-ramp, the off-ramp, all that is still hand controlled because there's no wires anymore. That's one that's managed by Elite per contract. We've got little hand controllers here, there, and everywhere that there's not a clock nearby. But I think we can control about 85 or 90% of the city.
With smart controllers. Cool, good.
How do those smart controllers connect to the internet? Because I mean, how do the smart controllers connect to the internet? Because they're all spread out so much.
Each one of those clocks has a new air card
Okay.
that we're paying for, and it's cellular. So it connects directly to the app, to Wade and Kenny and my phones. If it's raining a lot, we can turn it off. If it's not, we need to bump, we can bump a little bit. And that's just finally live this spring. So with that, we put Juan and his team, they put in hydrometers that will tell us, even those clocks, if there's a leak or a break, and it's drawn water, the hydrometers move when the clock's off. We can control water even better with that. So
Back to my earlier comment, I would like to see us get some rain so that we could have them turned down.
Test it.
National Weather Service.
Sorry, but
is
those
excited.
budget questions brought
That's
those
fine,
things
yeah.
to mind.
Kristen.
Yep. So that is all I had on the budget amendment. Do you have any questions? All right, and then looking at next year's budget, this is another review of the budget. Then this is the final one before July 1st. The economy is still the same way it's been, and so just looking at revenues. So the total revenues, 36.8 million or 0.9 million. And you can see the breakdown of like sales tax and utility charges being the majority. And then we do have 4 million in, 5 million in financing. So 4 million is a proposed sewer bond, and 1,074,000 is the police fleet lease. So that's the major revenues. With utility rates, we're planning increases. For water base, it's 5%. For usage, 4%. For sewer base, it's 7%, and usage is 10%. Stormwater, 4%, and then down in Anderson Farms, an increase of 4% on groundwater and 4% on metered secondary water. And that's the only place where we're charging metered secondary water right now. And then there's not an increase proposed for garbage or recycling. We are proposing to absorb the increases from both North Point and Republic Services. And then the next couple slides show the what the current rates are for utilities and then the increases. And then some miscellaneous fee schedule changes. Our certified tax rate, we got that from the county. I don't get to pick it. The county does their math to say, you know, we want you to bring in the same revenue as last year. The only increase you can have is on growth. And so as values go up, then our certified tax rate goes down. So it's going from 0.0821% to 0.0788%.
Does that mess with any of your projections in the budget at all?
What messes with my projections is when people don't pay their property tax. Because, like I said, it's supposed to be revenue neutral, just staying the same, but it's actually been going down a little bit the last couple of years. And that's just, you know, even though the county says, hey, we should be getting, you know, this much in revenue, we're not, so. And then changing the water meter rental water usage rates. So when somebody rents a hydrant meter and then that measures how much water they're using out of the hydrant, and then we charge them, and we don't know where in the city they're using it, if it's the upper or the lower. So it's an average of the usage rates for the whole city. And so as those rates go up, then the hydrant water usage rates also change. All right, any questions on revenues for the city? We're gonna go on to expenditures. And
could you explain for me
Yes.
again? This is probably an again. When the total expenditures is like 41 million and the revenues is like 36 million, is the difference accounted for in loans and things?
it's use of fund balance, so that just
Savings?
means yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah,
Gotcha.
we have funds that are there, and a lot of times that's what they're there for. We've
Yep.
been saving up so we can use them.
Thanks.
Yep. So, yeah, personnel is almost a quarter, with capital and operations being very close at 38% each. Okay, and so looking at personnel expenditures, we've discussed this already. The merit increase of 2.6%, the COLA increase of 5.1. Of 2.6. Say it. The merit's at 2.6. The COLA is 2.5. So total is 5.1. And then you can see the breakdown of the increases by fund, with most of it going to the general fund. And then also with personnel implementing a salary study, and I have a list of the positions that are changing from with their old range and then their new range. And there's 17 positions affecting 23 employees. And as they move up in range, then they would move back in steps. So that's why the cost isn't very much for next fiscal year. And then we're doing some changes with the insurance. So the medical insurance increased 7.1%, but then we are passing some of that on to the employees by changing their participation from 3% to 5%. And dental insurance is not increasing, and so the net increase to the city with those changes is 6.2%. And you can see the breakdown. And then also with personnel, the retirement rates are changing at URS. Most of the changes are decreases. The only increase is with Tier 2 on the employee side, going from 0.7% to 0.81%. So that even with that increase, there is a net decrease. And that is all I have for personnel. Do you have any questions about personnel? Okay, and then looking at operations, we have an increase that is in the budget for the Orem Fire, EMS, and Dispatch services that we contract with them. The increase is $192,000 above it's due to a change in methodology. So using the old methodology, it would have come in $192,000 less, but we're looking at their methodology, and it seemed logical and fair. So,
And we appreciate the heads up on that we got to be able to review that. So.
right. Yep. And then with this change, while Orem's changing their methodology, we're changing a little bit of ours and how we allocate the costs, and especially for dispatch, because we pay for dispatch for fire and police, and in the past we've just split it between fire and police. And in looking at that, Chase was like, we really should change the allocation, because 90% of the calls are for police. And so, like, yeah, that makes sense. So in the city budget, you would see on that dispatch line item for fire, it goes way down, and then for police, it goes way up. So, and then also, MAG notified us that their funding has decreased for the senior lunches. And so some cities are cutting back what they provide, and the decrease is about $17,000, and so we said we could cover that, and so that's in the budget.
How many meals a month would you say we do? You know that, Heath?
Yeah, I could probably make a pretty good guess. We average 25 meals 5 days a week, so you could probably do the math. Fridays is a little bit higher, but Wednesdays is slower, so about 25 meals a week, or a day for 5 days a week.
I know.
don't know, error.
So that's
500.
125 a week times 4 is
500.
500, yeah. Right on. All right. And then I just wanted to point out that for interfund transfers that we have $750,000 going from the general fund to the facilities capital improvement fund. And so we're doing $750 for this fiscal year and $750 for the 26 fiscal year. Some of that was to cover the cemetery expansion, but then also just help it to continue to grow for future needs.
And this could go towards, we had talked about Lindon Elementary.
Yeah,
if that
because was
comes
there
up.
like a 250 number that we were talking about for that
I
one?
think we had talked about 500, but
Oh.
we're not putting a name to this. And so this
Okay.
is money that we're putting into our facilities budget for whatever needs come up.
Right.
Gotcha.
And we were going to use money from that fund to help with the pool, and then decided to use park tax instead, and keep that for other things. And then with debt service, we're continuing to make extra principal payments on the 23 bond for the 700 North property, because it has low payments until a balloon payment at the end. And so we just figured as long as we can, we'll look at it each fiscal year and see if we can make extra principal payments. And then also we have a proposed $4 million bond in the water. I said sewer earlier, my mistake. It is for water. For the new well, to finish the new well, the well house, and the connections to the new well. So, all right, any questions on any of that? Then going on to capital, most of this is what we've already seen. For the general fund, capital facilities fund went from 1.3 million to 1,290,000 because I have the 10,000 in this fiscal year. And then you can see road fund, RDA, and there's money coming from different sources for property purchase, and so it's, then we've got park impact fees. So, and then the enterprise funds. The only thing that has changed is I cleaned up the recreation fund because I had the pirate ship in the Mirtha, and the Mirtha part was doubled. So,
When did we replace the flow rider pumps last? It feels like that's
every year, I don't know.
Well,
Feels that way.
Yeah,
I
I
was
was
trying
finishing
not to
your
say
thought on the feels like.
I think the flow rider pumps came out just before the pandemic, so I think 2019 or 18. I think we had to buy one and we serviced one. So they're about due. So.
It seems like every year because during COVID, we all lost that time period.
That's just specifically the flow rider.
Right,
The
there's other
are
pumps,
replaced,
yeah.
and,
There's lots of pumps in the pool and boilers and, yeah. Load.
welcome.
All right, any questions on capital expenditures? Okay. Then, looking at fund balance, not a lot has changed. So we are at 24.7% in the general fund, and that's a percentage of revenue. So the cap used to be at 25%, it's now at 35%. So
This is a healthy amount.
it is.
We feel
it
good
is,
about this.
Yep. Without being so close that we get written up. So,
We're putting money away for things too, so.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you felt that any of the other fund balances, if they draw attention, if any of the other fund balances draw your attention. I know we're putting some, you answered it about the facilities CIP, so that could be a flex one. I just didn't know. I understand we have kind of a metric for the general fund, but I didn't know if you all had an internal working rule for the other funds.
we don't.
Okay.
Just be aware that in that right side, the proprietary or enterprise funds, I mean, those look like huge dollar amounts, 2.9 million in water and 3 million in sewer that we project to end this next fiscal year with. But we have multiple millions of dollars worth of projects.
Yes,
And
for sure.
So, yeah, just keep that in mind.
I just didn't know, like I looked at the recreation one and I was like, is in
It's not a profit maker. We try not to keep too much extra money there because we're not, with the other funds, other enterprise funds like water and sewer, we're trying to cover our costs with fees. And we wouldn't have any participants if we were trying to cover our costs with fees. So we make up the difference with taxes that we transfer from the general fund as needed, or park tax.
Awesome.
Any other questions on the budget?
Thank you. I think it's important to note this is a 5-month process to this day,
Yep.
and we will tweak it as we need to.
Yes, that is very important to note, yes,
amend.
yes.
October is usually we do a budget amendment, and then again in
February, April,
February.
May, and June.
Okay.
As the year ends, we do them a little more frequently.
As needed.
Yeah.
So if you're comfortable with this, that sample motion on page 49 would work. And so this is approving the ordinance that adopts all those budget issues, the certified tax rate, everything else that's involved there, and then the resolution on the enterprise fund loan.
Any questions from any council members?
I think I only have one more. Juan, do you know what I see it's like 1.9 for roads. Do you know which ones you ended up kind of settling on, which roads you're going to use that money towards?
Pretty much the ones that I presented to you guys during the budget kickoff, minus all the ones that have the utility work
the Lakeview.
Right, so we're doing, just off the top of my head, we're doing 600 North,
Mhm.
which is the road. that,
Roller coaster road, yeah.
Roller Coaster Road.
I'm looking for the map in our past meetings here.
There was quite a few that had different kind of treatments, but that's the one that takes the most, actually milling the whole road
Yeah.
and repaving it.
Sorry. Thanks for.
You know what, we can we send out a
Entertaining.
map that shows them? That would be great.
If you have access to the W drive, I can find it.
Yeah,
It's okay. I was just.
yeah, where's it at in the W?
Folks ask.
On the budget, W, budgets, 25, 26. Last one, yeah. So
Oh,
it's not the
where's
map,
it on the
it
map?
has the project.
Oh, it has the list. I thought that got tweaked.
Yeah.
Since then, that has been changed.
Go to the other one.
That was from February. I thought he sent it.
Emailing it to us would be great too, just so we could reference it at other times.
Right there minus the one that have utility work, reconstruction with utility work. Minus
So
the purple
minus the
ones.
purple?
Yep.
We'll send out a map.
Yeah, but it's those minus the purple ones. So 900 East, Gilman, Lakeview, Center Street, and, what is that other one right here?
135.
Oh, I see. Okay.
135.
Yeah. So 135. I know that had come up a couple times. So that one we're not able to do this round.
Right, and then the rest of them, it says which ones are the microsurfacing, the orange ones, green in the seal coats. You can see the full reconstruct, which is the 900 north. That's the bumpy road. That's
The 600, 625. Yeah.
full reconstruction. Blue ones get a micro. You can see the one by Home Depot. That one gets rehabilitation, also a micro. Leading to the roundabout at the Hyundai Kia dealership.
Thank you.
And we're gonna put this out to bid in the fall, so we get the best price, so we can do it in spring of 2026. All this work and get the best prices.
I'll make a motion if we don't have additional discussion.
To close
This-
the public hearing?
Oh. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like that was a unanimous.
Okay, so this is on page 11, right? The motion that we're,
Item 11.
Number 11, yep.
I move to approve ordinance 2025-7-0 and resolution 2025-14-R as presented.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous motion. Going on to item number 13, which is a review and action of the AT&T cell phone.
This is number 12.
12.
Sorry, I just put my cross in the wrong
Big jump
place.
there. I'll make a motion to recess the Lindon City Council meeting and convene as the Lindon City RDA.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are now in our RDA meeting. And we need to do a call to order. Jake, could you
Jake
start us
Hoyt
off?
present.
Lincoln Jacobs present.
Van Broderick present.
Cole Hooley present.
All right, and then approval of the minutes.
I move.
If there are any corrections or adjustments,
I move to approve the RDA minutes from May 19th, 2025.
A second.
We have a motion and a second on the minutes from our RDA meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous decision. Item number 3, I'd entertain a motion to open a public hearing.
Motion to open a public hearing.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to open a public meeting to discuss the fiscal year 2025 final budget. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are now in a public hearing. Kristen again?
So the 2025 final budget or the 2026? Because there's not an amendment for the 25, but there is the final budget for the 2026 fiscal year.
Sorry, its resolution is in 25, so this is a
Okay.
fiscal year 26.
Yes.
There we go.
All right, we'll
just
correct
for
that, fiscal year
clarification.
2026.
Yep.
So the resolution that's attached includes the budget approval and then also includes an agreement between Lindon City and the RDA that the RDA is utilizing services of Lindon City, and there's an agreement here to pay that. And in your prior ordinance, it included an acceptance of Lindon City accepting this. So in fiscal year 26, we anticipate the RDA will pay the city $28,000 for the services that we provide to the RDA. And then I'll turn it over to Kristen on any other budget things that you want to bring up.
There's the sales or property, or sorry, there's a tax participation agreement in the CRA or the, or the
Lindon Park CRA?
Yes, yes. So we started doing that this fiscal year for the last quarter and then of 2024. And then next year will be for the full calendar year of 2025.
And
And
this
it's
was
sales tax and property tax.
payments to Doug Smith Kia for their incentive package that brought them here. And so they have to hit certain sales tax benchmarks, and then we pay above and beyond that to a certain percentage or dollar amount. So
And I believe that's the main thing that's going on in the RDA.
700 North, anything with the bond payment, or just we're making payments?
Yep,
Yeah.
we're making payments, and the CDA is contributing what they can, so.
Okay.
Yep. Any questions?
If not, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So motioned.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing for fiscal year 2026. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We've closed the public hearing. Any other comment, question? If not, I would be open to entertaining a motion.
I highlighted that motion there in front. Yeah, maybe that'll.
I move to approve Resolution 2025-4-RDA.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? A unanimous decision.
Mayor, I'll move to adjourn the Lindon City RDA meeting and reconvene the Lindon City Council meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to reconvene in the Lindon City Council meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Another unanimous vote. Now, item 13.
This is an updated agreement with AT&T for renewal of a lease that they have on an equipment building that is just right northeast of our old fire station, the Parks Garage. So you can see the white roof right here. That's been there, I think, 22 to 25 years, something like that. And so this is a renewal of the terms and renewal of that lease space. So it's been reviewed by myself and Brian and gone back and forth with their legal counsel a few times. We feel comfortable recommending approval on this.
I'm trying to remember the length of this one.
It's has a renewal every
It's
so
5
many
years
years.
with renewal every 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, that one was 2000 and didn't expire until 2025. It had some increases in rent periodically throughout. This one is 5 years, automatically renewable every 5 years. Just curious why different.
So the prior agreement had a similar language where it was for a few years and then it renewed automatically unless we had terminated it, is what I recall. And so I could be wrong on that, but I think that's set up in a similar fashion. Are you seeing that differently?
I thought I saw it differently as I looked between the two contracts, but it was more a curiosity than anything else. Was that changed that they changed in the way they did that? Was it stuff we
So
initiated?
in the
or-
term of the old contract, it said it would be a lease term of 5 years,
Hmm.
and then it had a renewal after 5 years, 4 times after 5 years. So, and I think that's the same way the new one's set up, or similar anyway.
Okay.
So, let's see on our term.
In 2000, it was 800 plus a month, and now it's 2,000
Yeah,
a
so
month.
this is where we're basically picking up where we left off,
Yeah.
and then it's increases 20% every 5 years. So. Questions on that?
I have none. I think we're ready for a motion unless somebody has some comments.
I move to approve the renewal of the lease agreement with AT&T Wireless Services as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to renew the lease agreement with AT&T. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 14.
So our interlocal group, this is the mayors, city administrators, council member, Cole's serves on this committee, and then our city attorneys are there off and on between PG, Orem, Lindon, and Vineyard. So we had met, and during the legislative session, we were pushing some state representatives for some language that we felt would help the South District financially, and didn't get some of that language in the newer legislation. And what ended up happening, that language changed from even what was currently or what was previously written, and in a way that we don't feel like we're getting financially treated as well as before the legislation happened. And there was a lot of comments. You jump in whenever you feel like you need to, Cole.
You can finish here.
There's a lot of comments between our group that, man, if we would have had a lobbyist to maybe help encourage these legislators to do differently, maybe we could have pushed some of this language that we had hoped for. And the mayors, went up to the Capitol and met with a couple legislators at least a couple times, and we had sent a lot of correspondence to them, but just didn't feel like in the end, maybe we had enough push or influence there. And certainly there's strong voices from the central and west districts. And so as we talked more about this as a committee, we felt like entertaining some lobbyist firms and seeing if they could help with this would be something at least worth exploring. We did find out that school districts are prohibited by state law from hiring lobbyists. And so this would be a fee that we would not expect the future school district to repay the cities on. And as the committee talked, there was discussion that, and I think overall feeling of the members there, the majority of the members, that this would be money spent to help taxpayers pay less in the future in our cities by getting some more appropriation from the state or changing the way the funding comes to the school districts so that we don't have to raise taxes elsewhere. So that was kind of the basis of I think a lot of the thoughts that were going on there. So we sent out an RFP, interviewed 2 different firms, had proposals from 4 or 5 firms. They ended up, the Lockhart Group, this is Stan Lockhart, is the principal of that group, would be providing the services. And this would be representing the cities, not representing the school district. So this would be the city's interest to try to get language in the statute that provides a better financial situation for the South School District. Timpanogos is the temporary name. So
is this something that happens just once before? I mean, your note was very interesting as I was reading through this. Or do we see in the future, maybe just for the first couple of years, that something like this would need to happen again, where we would need to have our cities retain some lobbyists to help our school district?
yeah, great question. So this next legislative session in 26, we think there'll be definitely some action there that comes from this if this is approved. But there's still another session in 27 that would occur before the schools the new districts start. And so this could be extended if we feel like we didn't, maybe that we want to renew this effort if it wasn't as successful as we hoped. So that could be a possibility for 2 years. Beyond that, I think my opinion of the group is beyond that, they'll probably punt to the schools and say, you need to figure this out. To the school district, the new district.
Right, but the school district can't hire
Now,
lobbyists.
they can't hire a lobbyist, but they can lobby their legislators. So an administrator or a superintendent or whomever can go lobby. The PTA members could go lobby their legislators. So they just can't hire a lobbyist or lobby firm to represent.
Whereas right now, without the school district form, there really isn't anyone to do that lobbying.
Correct.
Yeah. This is also an example why, in my opinion, how this all came about is kind of funky, because you've got cities who are temporarily in place to keep things going for the school district. So we're trying to keep an eye on keeping the school district looking good, but then in November, when the school board's members are officially seated, then we dissolve and they'll take over. So I don't know, it's just like another example of how the splitting of districts this way is kind of weird, because it brings cities in a way that we normally wouldn't be involved. But some other things that, to piggyback on what Adam said, like to give you some examples of the laws that we're bringing up. Like there were 3 points that we tried to get changed. One is to have like a yearly analysis of things instead of just when the split happened, because pupil count and taxable value count change over the next 3 years in substantial ways. And so we thought it'd be better if it was just every year they would sort of mark that. They're dividing up. We also thought it might make sense if you take on a bond right now, that the district that will be benefiting from that bond would be responsible for that bond. Right now, that's not the case. We all pay the interest until the districts officially split in 27. So that's, the West Side got a $200 million bond. So like our district is paying the interest on that so we just thought, if we know that bond will directly benefit a district that we will not be a part of, that they should just owe all of that. Same with us too. Like if we wanted to bond, we need to bond for the rest of Pleasant Grove High School. Right now we're incentivized to do it now, to have the other districts pay part of it. And the other is the division of debt and cash. So right now, debt is divided by taxable value, like how much the cities have put in, and cash is divided by number of students. And in that case, like our South District, we've paid a lot, but we have the lowest pupil count. So we end up paying more towards debt and getting less cash. So we get kind of a double whammy. So our position has been, let's reevaluate these assets because they're changing annually. If you take out a bond now, just pay it yourself and pick one or the other. Just do students for both or taxable value for both, cash and debt. And we tried to get those, but we weren't successful. So those are the items that we're trying to
So as
modify.
the other interlocals get wind of us getting lobbyists in place, any thoughts on their likelihood of having lobbyists in place to counter?
Yeah, they had lobbyists before as well. The biggest challenge to this will be the political feelings, fallout. I mean, it is. Yeah, it's like the West and Central districts are not in support of these changes, and so us moving forward with lobbying does sort of increase the intensity of the exchange. But the idea right now is if we do nothing, we already know what the situation is. We've had some internal reports show there's no fixed number, but I think there have been 6 reports, 3 of which have been outside entities that have shown our district will be in the largest deficit of the 3 districts. West Side will be in a surplus initially. Central will have a lower deficit. We'll have the largest deficit. The numbers change a little bit, but they've kind of coalesced. So we have a sense of how much operating deficit there will be to begin with. And if you were just to get any money for these 3 things, it quickly closes that gap.
Throw out that range, Cole. I mean,
Okay, 17, so we've got like 17 to 21 million operating deficit for our district, kind of starting out.
and the potential of some of these state statutes could change. There's a few pots of money that Cole mentioned, or
Yeah.
a few methodologies. And I mean, it could be 5 million up to 20, was it 27?
27, like if we got,
This is a big dollar amount that potentially could be
they're
on the
chasing. If we got all 3 asks, if they all got reversed or whatever, I mean, it would be like about $27 million. So it's
It's an investment of
a
$20,000 on a return.
So our current
Potential
interlocal
20
agreement says that the cities will split all costs of our interlocal
Yeah.
evenly 4 ways. There's a little bit of angst as we get further along that, hey, the bigger city, Orem, isn't paying as much, and PG's a little bit bigger, and Vineyard and Lindon are paying the same amounts. But we have an agreement that says it's going to split 4 ways. And so
And the trade-off with that agreement, when we first formed the interlocal, if we would have based decision-making off of voter population, or students, all 3 cities would have been advisories to Orem.
Right.
And so we opted early on to split the costs, and then we modified the voting so that all 4 cities would have more of a say. And initially, the law was written that we would be reimbursed for our costs. We've only had 1 cost so far of a financial study that we've split. And so we went in with that thinking, but then that got changed. So we knew we weren't getting reimbursed, and then we learned about the lobbying law. So it has changed some of the landscape of how we understood how we would be working financially. But like when I looked through and I did the sort of analysis of by student, by population, by voter, I mean, we're talking, we wouldn't be paying as much of the 20, but it's like $15,000 to $13,000 difference is what we're talking about. And anyway, so I don't know. I was of the opinion we started with this, we have this agreement, and I think if we were to move forward, which we won't because we'll be dissolved, but if the cities did want to have further stakes, then we could talk about it then in a new interlocal to say, okay, then we'll change some things to make it proportional in some ways. The mayor was there, and she'd asked me, and I'd bring it up, and Adam already did. She was of a mind, too, that at some point we should start thinking of this proportionally as far as costs go. PG would be spending about the same anyway. It's Orem that would be absorbing more cost ultimately, but that's not how we set it up at first.
You don't have a crystal ball?
Right, yeah.
I know it was to say whether it was a mistake or
unprecedented.
right on the money.
It's not too big of a price to pay to have say. So
I'm very comfortable with this, and I think it's a good investment that hopefully is felt as a benefit to the community here.
Yeah, the biggest thing is, I think I was talking, in order to cover like the complete deficit, I think one estimate right now is the district would have to pull 11 increments to just close this potential gap. And so really this is an investment to try to help our residents, particularly those, because, property tax, sometimes it hits like I think about my grandma who's just paying property tax now, doesn't have a mortgage, and it's a big thing on them. So if it does spare them any of those costs and helps minimize disruption so that they don't have to immediately jump to a lot of consolidations and stuff, it seems like but there will be some political upset probably. But I don't know. I think the lobbyists, their shtick was, we really want to try to bring everyone to the table first and try to come with a better agreement first. And then if that doesn't work, then we'll just go up to the legislator and say, hey, we tried. We really tried to broker a deal to make this better for folks. And we couldn't do it. So we'll see. We kind of know, I think the worst case is we don't get it and people are upset. Best case is we do get something, and they'll probably be upset. Unfortunately, I wish that wasn't the case, but probably will be.
Also, for what it's worth, I know Stan Lockhart. I know a lot of us do, and I think he's pretty impressive. Got a lot of pull up there.
Yeah, and all the lobbyists on his team, they live in our district, and so they're kind of like, man, this is
skin in the game too.
This is for us.
Well, I'm comfortable with this unless there's more discussion that needs to be had.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah.
Sample motion right there.
Let me just pull this up. I move to approve financial participation for lobbying efforts as presented.
We have a motion
I'll second.
and a second for the lobbyist participation. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous.
One more question. The other three cities, have they already passed this? Or are they passing it soon?
I think we were one of the first.
We're the first city, I think, to meet. The others are within the next 2 weeks. They've got meetings, and so.
The vibe and the interlocal has been cooperative. We've been getting along. We're asking difficult questions, so it's not, all like, yeah. But it's been good. Folks have been agreeing. So my sense is the other cities are going to be Vineyard and us. We were the two cities that, if anything were to be different in how you divided this, had the biggest shift. PG, they would have been in this range anyway, population-wise. So it's looking pretty good.
Thanks for your work there.
Yeah, a lot of work. Lincoln knows we never have to get involved with school districts. That was my one promise to him when he decided to run for city council. All right, I'll move to enter a closed session to discuss potential purchase or sale of real estate and pending or possible litigation per Utah code.
You did that so much better than I did last time. I read all the numbers. I second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second, so we'll have a roll call vote.
Jake Hoyt, aye.
Lincoln Jacobs, aye.
Van Broderick, aye.
Cole Hooley, aye.
Let us do the
Sorry, Brian, you got
logistical.
that. And the mayor asked to join on this, so I've got to just call her really quick and make sure she can get on.